Hello everyone. Welcome to a new and amazing part of What If Deku Ran an Orphanage. This story is written by the amazing Kyodon. Please remember to support them. The link to the story is in the bio below. Remember to like, sub, and share the video around for more amazing stories. Now let's start this amazing story. In the dead of night, a black armored truck parked outside of a bricked building. A large metal door opened up, and the truck came right in. The truck kept driving into the facility before reaching a parking area and parking before the curb. The back doors opened, and 4 men in full protective gear stepped out, holding a large metallic box. And the moment all of them came out into the open, shing, shing, shing. Suddenly from the ceiling, foot ninjas dropped from the ceiling and stabbed the men with their swords. The swords pierced through the men's heads, but instead of blood, sparks flew out, as the men were revealed to be metal instead of flesh. The rest of the ninjas dropped from the ceiling, making 24 ninjas. And lastly, their commander, Foresight, dropped down. Foresight wore a similar ninja garb, but his was blue rather than black. "Robots," Foresight said. "Did you think we would send real men to get stabbed?" asked a voice from inside the dark armored truck. Immediately, all the ninjas went on guard, holding their swords up to the truck. They heard footsteps thunk against the metal floor of the truck. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Then a man came into light. He wore a long gray jumpsuit, covering his entire body, with long red metallic boots coming up to his knees, similar metallic gloves covering his hands, a red belt, and a yellow scarf around his neck. On his head was a red helmet, with white trim around the inner edges, and black sunglass-like materials covered everything but his mouth. And on his back was a large red and white shield. Shing, 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 shing. All of the ninjas except Foresight threw throwing stars at him, and they immediately bounced off him, doing absolutely nothing. The man in red held up his arm, and suddenly his hand spun around and transformed into a cannon. Pew 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 pew. The man in red started opening fire, unleashing small balls of light from his cannon at the ninjas, nailing almost all of them in seconds, and sending their smoking, unconscious bodies to the floor. Foresight had already activated his quirk and dodged all the balls of light. Quirk, Foresight, allows the user to see the enemy's next immediate action. Seeing that this was a trap, Foresight immediately ran out of the parking lot and to the exit. Humph. The man in red grunted as the doors opened up and more robots came in to deal with the metal cube. Set up the device. I have work to do. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX arrived at the foot base he was assigned to. Forsyth walked through the halls of the base until he reached the room he was looking for. He walked in, and most of the room was underwater, with only one walkway leading halfway through it. Forsyth walked to the end of the platform and kneeled. "Sir." That's when a large fish-eel hybrids with arms and robotic legs attached to it. "You failed," Fishface hissed. "Explain yourself." "It was a trap, sir. The men were robots, and there was what looked like an elite bodyguard or mercenary." Forsyth explained. "Our weapons were completely ineffective on him, and he had some kind of laser weapon." "TCH, that damn Midoriya knew we'd come," Fishface said. "I trust you didn't lead him here." "I was not followed," Forsyth said. "I'm sure of it." BRRRR. 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 Suddenly the whole base was bathed in red as the alarms went off. Fishface glared at Forsyth, who was absolutely dumbfounded. "How dash?" Pew 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 pew. Outside, the sound of a distant ruckus could be heard, the sounds of clanging metal and a blaster being fired, getting closer and closer, until suddenly, almost all the noise came to a stop, and the only thing that could be heard was the sound of loud footsteps on metal. Thunk, 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 thunk. And as the footsteps got closer and closer, suddenly, they heard the sound of whistling. WRRR, 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 WRRR. And that was when the man in red appeared in the doorway. How did you go? Forsyth didn't have the time to ask questions, as immediately the man started opening fire. Pew 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 pew. Balls of light flew from his cannon, hitting Forsyth, who had nowhere to dodge, and leaving his unconscious body floating in the water. Fishface lunged at the man in red, but the man just grabbed him by the bottom of his mouth, flipped him over, and stepped on him, pinning him down. Act! Fishface tried to push himself up, but even with his robotic legs, the man's strength was too much for him. Don't bother, the man said, pointing his cannon at his face. Pew! XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX waiting for him, the cops armed and pointing their weapons at him. Death Arms was also present, in front of all the cops. Vigilante, freeze and put your hands up. The man in red didn't seem fazed. I am Midoriya Foundation Model Number 000. Prototype. I am not a vigilante, nor am I committing any crimes. All of this has been approved by the government. You like I'd believe that. You look pretty human for a robot. Death Arms said. Last chance. The only reason I'm still here is because I need to make sure these people are arrested. The prototype said. Do your jobs so I can leave already. This is all a waste of time. All right, buddy, the hard way it is. Death Arms shouted, and he rushed towards the prototype, with his fist cocked back. Fool. The prototype said as he pulled out his shield. Clang. Death Arms' fist slammed into the prototype's shield, and the sound rang out loudly across the street. The prototype slid back a few inches, but seemed otherwise unaffected. He moved his shield, bringing Death Arms' arm with it, before letting loose shots from his cannon right to his face. Pew 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 pew. Ack! Death Arms stumbled backward as the laser shots hit his chest and face, causing him to stagger slightly as they created slight burns on him. Death Arms eventually put his arms up in front of him to block the shots. However, this would soon prove ineffective, as suddenly, the prototype's cannon began to charge. Brrrr. Pew. Suddenly, a much larger energy shot blasted out of his cannon and slammed into Death Arms. His arms spread apart, and he went flying backward, slamming into a police car and making it cave in on itself. Open fire. One of the policemen ordered. BLM, 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 BLM. Dozens of shots were fired at the prototype, and all of them bounced off him, as he stood there not reacting to them. That's enough, shouted a voice from the sky. Everyone stopped the fire and looked up at the sky to see hawks flying over them. Hawks? What do you mean that's enough? Death Arms asked, pulling himself up from the wreck of the police car, his arms still smoking and burning up. I believe he told you that he wasn't doing anything illegal, Hawk said, crossing his arms. This is a joint operation between the Midoriya Foundation and the HPSC, an operation that you are currently interfering with, not to mention attacking private personal property. A bit of both. The prototype shrugged. Wait, so this thing's actually a robot? Death Arms shouted in shock, giving the prototype a shocked look. Hawks, the prototype said. You were supposed to be here before any other heroes could show up. Why were you late? Oh, I was here the whole time. I just wanted to see the world's first fully sentient AI in action. Hawk smirked. Why, you little dash. Death Arms was about to give Hawks hell for that, but he was cut off, as suddenly the prototype started glowing. Should he be doing that? The glow grew brighter and brighter, until suddenly it rose into the sky in a beam, before disappearing entirely. What the hell was that? Death Arms shouted. Buddy, even I'm not allowed to know that kind of information. Hawks chuckled. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX lab, sitting with my Nejiru, Hikari, and the prototype who was the only one not sitting down. Rather, he was leaning against the wall. Truly wonderful. Izuku continued to praise. The prototype was a complete success. Ah, I suppose we should call you by your name, which is Protoman, Nejiru said proudly. Protoman sighed. I wish as much effort was into creating my name as there was in creating me. Name aside, I must say I am incredibly impressed by the results. I thought he might struggle a bit, but he made it all look so easy. Izuku said, truly you more than the sum of your parts. Which said a lot because the two fractals that had been used were rather powerful. The first one was a fractal that allowed for the absorption of solar energy, which the user would then be able to shoot out. The second was one that allowed the user to transform into light and move to a location at the speed of light. Basically teleportation. However, the user must be familiar with the place they're going to. If I couldn't do this much, then I'd be scrapped. Protoman huffed. Not at all. We wouldn't do something so cruel as to give you life and then take it away, Hikari said. At worst, you would simply be upgraded. I feel it's an exaggeration to say we gave him life, Nejiru argued. It's more like we gave him a form. Once it has a somewhat organic form to hold on to, chaos energy creates life itself. Regardless, it's both impressive and somewhat terrifying, Izuku admitted. No offense, Protoman. None taken, Protoman grunted. That's not even taking zero into account. Izuku sighed, before looking at Nejiru, who had the decency to look a bit sheepish. If this is just using fractals, just imagine if a chaos emerald instead. We don't need to imagine, sir, we've done the calculations. Hikari sighed. He could destroy a small county, and likely sink an island back into the ocean. Or he could save a country by himself, Nejiru argued. Yes, which is why their creation should have a heavy amount of oversight, and should have an abundant amount of time devoted to it, Hikari said, rather than, say, done in secret by one person in a rush. Agreed. Which is why any and all creation of artificial intelligence must be approved by me. Izuku said, any and all breaches of this will result in strict punishment, including possible immediate employment termination. Understood. Yes, sir. Everyone said. You know, I'm thinking of making an official fishing pond. Izuku thought. He and Yonda were currently at the edge of a lake, sitting on 2 chairs with fishing rods in hand. It is a very relaxing activity, Yonda said. But we can talk about that later after we're done talking about what we really came here for. Ever to the point. Izuku sighed. Only with you, father, Yonda said with a smirk. All right, so I just want to talk to you. No scoldings, no high horses, no threat of punishment, and no manipulations of lies. Izuku told her. Just you and me. Father to daughter. Person to person. So you enjoy controlling people? Yonda paused. Well, I do not enjoy it. I'll be honest with you, Yonda. I think you find manipulating people fun, and you're using an excuse of trying to help people out so you don't feel bad about it. Izuku stated outright. Yonda paused again. I mean, she was kinda at a loss on how to answer that. She wanted to deny it, but at the same time, now that she thought about it, was he wrong? She always felt a bit of glee whenever she figured out a way to help, and definitely not for the same reason Izuku did. The feeling of setting up a plan and watching it all go out the way she wanted it made her feel. Does it make you feel powerful? Izuku asked her, hitting the nail right on the head. It appears you've gotten to know me quite well, father. Yonda admitted. Perhaps better than me. Or perhaps, now that I think about it, I knew all along and just was ignoring it. All right, yes. I do enjoy getting people to do what I want. It makes me feel at ease. Happy even. It makes you feel like you have control. And that makes you feel safe. Izuku concluded. I've been talking with Rin and Nizu, trying to understand you better. And we've come to a consensus. You can tell me if it's right or not. When your quirk first activated, it was more like a curse to you. You would hear the nasty, hurtful thoughts of everyone around you constantly, with no way to stop it. And when you did attempt to stop it, it made things worse. You must have felt so powerless. But after you realized you could use your power to gain control of things, you finally felt like had a grip on things again. And so you became addicted to that feeling. Are we right? Yonda thought about that for a while, going through the memories of her life and trying to see if everything matched up. That is upsettingly accurate. I see. Izuku paused. So then, what are we going to do about it then? I don't want you feeling helpless and powerless, but at the same time, I don't want you going around manipulating people for your own amusement. And I doubt just pointing this out will be enough to stop you. Yonda remained silent. Tellingly so. We need to find a healthy way for you to express these feelings. Izuku told her. And honestly, I'm not completely sure how to do that. But I'm going to try and figure it out. But I need you to work with me here. Very well, father. Yonda agreed with a downcast expression. It seems I have been not as good as I thought. So for you, and for this family, I will try to be better about my activities. Thank you. Izuku smiled and ruffled her hair. That's my girl. Hidden sights. Fuku hummed to herself as she finished up washing the dishes. Then she felt something wet and squishy tap her on the shoulder. Fuku jumped and fell off the footstool she was using to reach the sink. But instead of hitting the hard ground, she landed on a bright blue slime that cushioned her fall. Sanson, Fuku squealed. Don't surprise me like that. Sorry. Sanson apologized. Want to show you something. Let's go. Suddenly, Sanson started moving, with Fuku on top of her, squirming and confused as they went. Wait, I have to do the dishes. Fuku protested, to no avail. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Sanson, please at least tell me what we're going to Fuku screamed, as Sanson suddenly wrapped around her, forming a slime bubble. Wait, what are you hhhhh? Without another word, Sanson rolled into the lake and started moving deeper and deeper under the water. Fuku went silent as Sanson swam through the water, just kinda accepting that by now she didn't really have any input on what was happening. They soon arrived at a small underwater cave entrance. Sanson swam through it, and Fuku held her breath, not liking how close those jagged rocks were to them. Although she didn't really need to worry about that, as Sanson was more than capable of protecting the two of them from even the pointiest of rocks. After a while more of traveling, they finally reached a space where the cave curved upwards, and Sanson rose, until eventually, they came out of the water and into a cave. And Fuku was utterly shocked at what she saw. First of all, there were lights placed there, artificial ones, meaning it was likely Sanson had been down here before. Second, there were tiny crystals placed all across the ceiling, sparkling like tiny stars. And lastly, on the ground, there was a patch of grass, and on that grass were roughly carved crystal flowers. And despite the shaky craftsmanship, they were still utterly beautiful. Wow! Fuku gasped as she looked around the stunning cave. Did you make this? Uh-huh. Sanson formed back into her humanoid form and crossed her arms while putting on her smuggest expression. This is my art. It's beautiful, Fuku said, still in awe of the scenery around her. How long did it take you to make this? How did you make this? Found cave, decided to make it art, Sanson explained. Yeah, but where did you get all these crystals? Fuku asked. Found them, Sanson explained. I like exploring. So that's what you do all day, Fuku said. I guess you could probably get in a lot of places people can't get normally. That's probably how you found so many of these. But why did you want me to see it? Not that I wish I didn't. It's beautiful. It's just why me. Yonda told me too, Sanson explained. She said it might help with your game. Really? Fuku blushed a bit. In truth, she knew she wanted to add something like this to her world exploration game as soon as she saw it, and she was quite glad she got permission that easily. I'll have to thank her later. And thank you for showing me all this. Do you mind if I paint this later? Sanson gave her the thumbs up. Okay. Greetings, my loyal minions. Kiba said into her camera as she sat in one of the empty rooms with a group of her friends and siblings. And welcome to Truth or Dare. Grabs popcorn. Oh, this is going to be good. This can only go well. I can only imagine what's going to happen to Fu today. Allow me to introduce the stars of today's broadcast. Kiba turned her camera towards the group. My ever-positive sister Kay. Hello. Kay happily waved at the camera. My first and most loyal minion Fu. Don't mourn for me. I'm already dead. Fu sighed. Our antisocial sister, Kyoku. That's how you introduce me? Kyoku pouted. Our resident fashion-forward fiend, Shiruku. Fiend. Shiruku objected. Our mook maker, Yami. Please don't call me that. Yami said politely. The ego twins, Ken and Nara. What do you mean, ego twins? Ken and Nara shouted at the same time. My apprentice, Knees. Hey there. Knees introduced with a forced smile and peppiness. Our sinister-sounding, but mostly well-meaning friend, a.k.a. I am not in any way sinister. Take that back or be obliterated, a.k.a. argued. Our elusive friend, Jin. I got bored and had a little extra energy, Jin said, as he sipped a cup of coffee. Our stupidly youthful ants. Yaba, G, and Inu. Hey. All three of them said at the same time. And lastly, our empty-headed follower, Sori. What's up? Sori said excitedly, not at all offended by the diss. And then, someone here to make sure all the truths are true, Yonda. Kiba finished up. Yonda waved at the camera. Now then, let's get to the rules, Kiba explained, as she picked up a cup with a bunch of sticks in it. Whoever gets the longest stick will get to go first, and ask whoever they want, truth or dare. If they say truth, they have to tell the truth. If they say dare, they have to do a dare. If they got caught lying during a truth, they have to do a double truth or dare. If they refuse a dare, same thing unless we all decide that it's too much. At least there are some boundaries. This is still going to get messy. Now then, Let's see who goes first, Kiba said, as everyone surrounded the cup and started pulling out sticks. Huh, victory is mine, aka cackled, as she held up the longest stick with a sinister smile. Now then, Lady Kiba, truth or dare, if you dare. Oh, you're asking me, Kiba smirked. I can't embarrass you without asking the question. Now answer. Or are you scared? Aka smirked back. As if. In fact. Dare, Kiba said confidently. Aka cackled. Oh, how you will regret that answer, my dear. Ahaha. Ahaha. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX all of a sudden. Knock, knock, knock. Come in, Kiba, Izuku said immediately. How did you know it was me? Kiba asked as she entered the room, not quite closing the door behind her. No one else knocks that loud, Izuku explained. This is the second time I've been figured out by the sound of my knocking. Is it really that loud? Kiba asked herself internally. Now, what do you need? Izuku asked. Almost immediately, Kiba's face turned red, as she was reminded of what she had come here for. Daddy, can I have a hug? Izuku gave her an odd look for a second, before shaking his head and getting up. Of course, my little shadow queen. He picked her up and held her in his arms, patting the back of her head and rocking her in just the way she liked, which only made her face go redder. Did anything happen? Are you okay? Izuku asked her. Normally, she only called him Dad or Daddy when she was distressed. I'm fine, Kiba said, before taking a deep breath. Daddy, I really super duper love you a whole lot. Oh, I see. Izuku smiled. Are those your real feelings? Or is this part of some kind of bet or dare? Why, yes. Kiba buried her head in Izuku's torso to hide her intense blush. All right, I think that's enough, Izuku said towards the door, seeing a camera recording them. Hehehe. AKA laughed evilly as she ran away. Izuku shook his head before looking back at Kiba. You gonna be okay? Yeah. Kiba groaned. Just stay like this for a bit longer. As you command, Izuku said, as he hugged her, just a bit tighter. Kiba rejoined the rest of the group, her face burning red. That was so cute. Well, I now have diabetes. I love this family. Look at her blush. I love you, Lady K. I will get revenge for this, you know, Kiba said as she glared at AK. But for now, Shiruko. Truth or dare? Truth. Shiruko decided. She didn't have anything to hide after all. Is it true that you've gotten stuck on the toilet once? Kiba asked. How did you know about that? Shiruko screamed, as her face instantly became red. Ah. Some of the kids burst out laughing. How the heck did that happen? Ken asked through his laughter. Look, toilets aren't exactly made for people with giant spider butts. Okay, at least not until… You know what, never mind, yes I did. Shiruko grimaced before she glanced over to Fu, and instantly a smirk came to her face. Fu. Truth or dare? Fu sighed. Dare. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Fu was now sitting back down in the circle, but now wearing a bright red dress, covered in makeup, and wearing a long white wig. In other words, he looked like some kind of fusion between himself and Kiba. Ahahaha. Once again, laughter overtook a good chunk of the group, this time far more hysterical than with Shiruku, who looked rather proud of herself. Wow, Fu, you actually look really pretty. Kei complimented with no trace of mockery in her voice. Thanks, Kei. Fu sighed. In all honesty, he was mixed about this whole thing. On one hand, this was probably the most embarrassing he'd been in a while, and on the other hand, he always enjoyed feeling something regardless of what it was, so he was kinda into it. It's your turn, sister. Kiba snickered. Fu was rocking that look. Fu did always look good in red. Why does he actually look like a girl, though? Shiruku is very good with makeup. All right, let's stop the hate train here. Kei, truth or dare? Fu asked. Dare, Kei said boldly. I dare you not to make any puns for the rest of this day, Fu said. Bull. Thank you. No fun. Thank Fu. Kei pouted and crossed her arms. Meaning, Inu, truth or dare? Truth. Inu decided. Come on, sis, don't be a wuss, say dare. Yaba said, trying to pressure/encourage her sister. She already said truth. But out of it, sis. Ji told her. All right, who do you like more? Ji or Yaba? Kei asked. Oh, That's way more spicy than I would have thought, coming from you. Yaba smirked, before turning to Inu. So sis, who you gonna dash? Gee, Inu said with little hesitation, but a bit of guilt. Yeech. Yaba gave her sister a shocked and outraged look. That was fucking fast. What the heck? It's quite simple really, I don't get us into fights all the time, G said with a self-assured smirk. Yeah, I have that sibling. F for Yaba. F. You could have pretended that it was a hard choice, Yaba mumbled, as she crossed her arms and pouted. I still love you a lot too, sis, Inu said, trying to make her feel better, but to no avail. G. Truth or dare? G sighed. I guess dare. I dare you to say woof at the end of every sentence. Inu decided. Geez, I twitched a bit. Could have sworn you said I was your favorite. Woof. Ugh. Yaba, truth or dare? Woof. Dare, Yaba said with a menacing look. Do your worst, sis. I dare you to eat an eyeball. Woof. G said with a smirk, as all of Yaba's confidence drained from her face, which was quickly turning white. Oh, hi. Got her. You evil bitch, Yaba said in a horrified whisper. It was then Shiruku pulled out a jar of eyeballs from behind her, much to Yaba's shock and disgust. Why were you just carrying that around? Yaba asked. Snacks, Shiruku said with a shrug, as she slid the jar over to Yaba. Eat. Everyone looked at her, and Yaba was sweating as she stared at the glass. She took a deep breath and took off the lid, before placing her hand in the jar. Squish. Yaba grimaced, as a wet slimy sound came out as she picked up one of the eyeballs. She held it up and tried not to gag. She gathered all her courage and squished. A wet sound rang out, as Yaba popped the eyeball into her mouth. Yaba cringed so hard as her teeth clamped down on it, popping it and causing eyeball juice to fly all over her mouth. She gauged, but she managed to keep herself from vomiting and held it together, enough to slur what was left of the eyeball down her throat. Oh, ag. Yaba gagged, as her task was finally complete. It's like a fish-flavored grape. Ugh. All right, sis, your turn, G said with a shit-eating grin. But remember, you can't ask me yet. I know, Yaba growled, as she looked around, seeing who her target would be, and her eyes landed on Jin. Hey, Sleeping Beauty, truth or dare? Truth, Jin said. What is it you do all day in that room? Yaba asked, genuinely curious. Like you never come out of there, so you have to be doing something aside from sleep. I watch TV and read books, Jin answered. That's it. My life is pretty boring because I don't have the energy to do anything. Come on, there has to be something interesting, Yaba said, giving him a disbelieving glare. No, he's telling the truth. His life is just that boring. Yonda explained. Waste of a turn, Yaba muttered. AKA, truth or dare? Jin asked. Dare. Do your worst. You will find it lacking, AKA said before laughing again. Dash. I dare you not to use the bathroom until the game is over, Jin said. AKA stopped laughing, and her eyes went wide. You cannot use the bathroom until the game is over, Jin repeated. Jerk, AKA replied. Sorry, truth or dare? AKA asked. Dare. Come at me. Sorry challenged. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Ken, with a very satisfied expression. Sorry, what are you up? Sai suddenly yelped, as Sori smacked her butt and ran away. Huh. It bounced. She has a big butt. Sori laughed, and the sound of several other footsteps and laughter. Sai shook her head. Children. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX but... LMAO. Kiba being child-friendly. What a funny joke. I can't believe you actually did that. Fu sighed. Well, I did. Which means I get to go next. Sori said without a hint of shame. Ken. Truth or dare? Dare, Ken said. Outside he was cocky, but he was a bit nervous. After all, some of the dares were pretty brutal. I dare you to do whatever dare you were going to give to your sister. Sori said mischievously. Instantly, Ken's face lost any trace of confidence. Huh. Nara suddenly burst into laughter. Nice one. Karma wins again. All right, spit it out. What were you going to do? Kiba asked. Ken sighed. I was going to make her chew on my sock for 1 minute. Immediately, All amusement left Nara's face and was replaced with outrage and horror. You were going to do what? It wasn't even the stinker once. Ken scoffed as he pulled out the sock he'd been holding on to. All right, let's get this over with. With little hesitation, Ken stuffed the sock in his mouth and winced. It was sour and damp. Not overwhelmingly so, but definitely in a way that made this extremely unpleasant. Timer starts now, Fu said, using his phone to time the dare. Yo wow. Man, poor Ken. He thought of a good dare, and it just got Uno reverse carded on him. Karma. This won't do any serious harm, will it? Not unless Ken's sweat in a biohazard. Mine sure is. Done. Fu called as a full minute had passed. Pa. Ken spat out the sock behind him. Here you go. Kay, who had left since the dare was revealed, returned, with a glass of milk, and handed it to Ken. Kay, you're a lifesaver. Ken quickly chugged down the milk, letting it wash away the taste of sock in his mouth. All right, do your worst. Nara sighed, knowing exactly what was coming next. Yami, truth or dare? Ken said, getting surprised looks from everyone. What? I just used up my dare for her. Now I need to think of something else. You're assuming I would have said dare. Nara pointed out. Oh yeah. Ken blushed as he realized the rather obvious oversight in his plan. Anyway, Yami, truth or dare? Dare. Yami shrugged. He didn't really have anything interesting to hide, so this would keep things interesting. I dare you to eat one of your own, Grim, Ken said. A lot of eating things, huh? Can he even eat that? Yami shrugged, before spitting out a bit of Grim goop. The goop hit the ground, before quickly turning into a ravager. Yami then grabbed the small Grim and then bit its head off, chewing it thoroughly. As the Grim started to dissipate, Yami threw the rest of it in his mouth and kept chewing. Burp. Yami let out a very loud burp, and black smoke came out of his mouth. How did it taste? Ken asked. Bitter, spicy, bad, Yami answered. Well, that makes sense. They are literally the physical embodiment of negativity. Like vegetables. Knees, truth, or dare? Yami asked. Truth. Knees answered, not wanting to go through one of those horrible dares. Have you ever kissed body pillows? Yami asked. Immediately Knees' face turned red, and she looked away from the group. Why yes. No one even laughed at that. They just gave her extremely pitying looks. It's okay, Knees. People are probably making out with Kiba's body pillows as we speak, Fu reassured her. Yes, thank you for reminding me, Kiba grunted. Fu, truth or dare? Knees said, quickly wanting to get the focus off of her. I'll take a truth this time, Fu said. What is the most embarrassing thing Kiba has made you do? Knees asked. Aside from this, one time she got a squeaky toy stuck in her throat, and I had to spend hours getting it out, while she kept vomiting on me, Fu revealed. Wait, what? How did she get a chew toy stuck in her throat? I'm imagining that now, and I'm both disgusted and thoroughly amused. Yeah, that sounds like Kiba all right. How did you get a dog toy stuck in your throat? Nara asked Kiba with a bewildered look. It happens. Yaba shrugged. No, it doesn't. G objected. You two are just weird. Nara, truth or dare? Kiba asked, her face red with embarrassment. Truth, Nara said. I can handle some embarrassment. I'm this idiot's sister, so I'm used to it. Ken stuck his tongue out in response. All right, tell us about the first time you ever transformed, Kiba said. That. Nara blushed. Okay, so one day I just woke up as Ditto, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. Everyone freaked out, and I just kept multiplying and multiplying over and over, and then people started hitting me and stepping on me. It was a mess. Yeah, Ken said with a fond smile. Although it's kind of funny now. For you. Nara scoffed, before looking back at everyone. All right, Kyoka, truth or dare? Truth, Kyoku answered. I heard you broke into Izuku's house and changed everyone's memories when you first came into the family, Nara said. How did you manage that? Well, first I changed Kiba's memories and made her leave the door unlocked, Kyoku explained. I don't remember that happening. How did you do that? Kiba asked. I offered to give you a head massage. Kyoku snickered. I honestly didn't think it would work. Well, Kiba's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. Yonda said cockily. Don't take massages from strangers' kids. I feel we gloss over the fact that she literally broke into their house and said, you're gonna adopt me whether you like it or not. Standard stuff for the Midoriya family. I expect that one day aliens will crash into their house, and they'll look like children and demand to be adopted. Well, I don't regret it one bit. Kiba pouted. Because I got another cute sister out of it. So ha. Alwo. 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 This is what I come here for. Fluff and gore. Same. 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 All right. Sorry, truth or dare? Kyoko asked. Dare. Sorry said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX sure. All right, sir, we'll start work on Project D aside, Mai said. Also, I just wanted to make sure. The lab tour is still happening, right? Are the chaos sensors installed? Izuku asked. As well as the biometric scanners? Yes, sir, Mai said. Then yes, Izuku said. Suddenly, Kiba burst through the door, breaking it off its hinges. Caretaker, Sori broke every bone in her body. Izuku sighed. Again? Get her to Vera. Already on it, caretaker. Kiba nodded, before running away to make sure Sori got to the infirmary okay. Sorry I have to go. I need to go do damage control, and call someone to fix the door. Izuku sighed. Before we begin, there are some things I'd like to tell you. Izuku started. Once again, Izuku and Rin were in Izuku's office, starting another therapy session. Go on, Rin said. Well, you know those sky pirates that stole my ship? Izuku winced. Yeah, I kinda told them to do that. And let them steal it. Oomph. Well, that actually makes sense, Rin said in a super casual tone as he sipped his coffee. I was wondering why you were making a pirate ship to begin with, but I guess that question is somewhat answered. You're not surprised? Or mad? Or anything? Izuku said, feeling a bit relieved. I expect not to expect things. Have you seen my quirk? Rin chuckled. As for being mad, I'm not one to jump to conclusions. I'll let you explain yourself before I cast judgment. Much appreciated, Izuku said, as he did a short bow, before explaining everything. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX way. Rin surmised after listening to everything. Yeah, it does sound rather sketchy, Izuku admitted. But I don't know how else to fight them. It's sketchy, yeah, but I don't think you're in the wrong, Rin admitted, much to Izuku's surprise. The law is great and all in that it keeps people from killing people for the most part, but it's been twisted and bent for the benefit of no so well-intentioned people. I'm more of an advocate for justice than upholding the law. I see. Izuku relaxed a bit. Well, I'm still more than a bit nervous. It just feels like dash. A slippery slope. Rin finished. That's the conundrum. Where do you draw the line? Too close, and you'll be defenseless. Too far, and you're just as bad as the people you're fighting. The worst part is there's almost never an answer. At least not one that can't only be found in hindsight. But there are a few landmarks that might help you out. Mainly murder. Have you killed anyone? No. Izuku sighed. Thankfully, I haven't had to cross that line yet. That's good. Regardless of what you have to do, I'd say you should always treat life with respect. Rin advised. The moment human lives become nothing but a resource or obstacle or anything like that is when you yourself become something less than human. Right? Izuku nodded, taking those words to heart. Thank you. You're welcome. And I'm glad you opened up to me about it. Rin told him. Isolation is the enemy of mankind. Even if you have to keep your secrets, having a few people to who you can tell everything and who can advise you when you need it the most is more valuable than anything else. Except for your children, of course. Now, let's start the session properly. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX no shadows were around. It seems like we'll have an easier time than before, Izuku said. Good. I want to get this over with. Don't be reckless, Rin warned him. We won't know if your cognition changed or not until we run into Bakugo. And even then, cognition changes can be wild. Even if Bakugo is weaker, it won't guarantee that it'll be a cakewalk from here on. I know that. Izuku sighed as he opened the door, and they entered the school itself. I just want to see the effects of this so I can finally start letting you work with my children. I understand, but patience is key when it comes to healing, Rin told him. Remember that. DKU. Kaboom. Suddenly, cognitive Bakugo exploded down the halls, heading towards the two of them at mind-boggling speeds. Thwack. Heracles materialized in front of Izuku and thwacked Bakugo back, hitting him through several walls. Huh. Looks like it worked. Rin noted. Honestly, Didn't think the cognitive change would be this strong. Well, after some reflecting, I realized something. Izuku said, Kaken is strong, don't get me wrong. But I'm something different. Back then, he didn't even need to be close to me to hurt me. But now, he's not even a concern. Don't talk down to me, DKU. The fake Bakugo roared out in rage as he once again exploded himself over to them, cocking his arm back and ready to fire an explosion. Heracles, get him out of our way, Izuku said, sounding more annoyed than threatened. Heracles appeared in front of Izuku, just as cognitive Bakugo landed in front of them, before letting out a massive explosion at Heracles. As cognitive Bakugo landed on his feet, Heracles' hand came out of the smoke and grabbed him by the head. Ack, let go, cognitive Bakugo roared, as he unleashed explosion after explosion on a Heracles, but it did nothing to the beast. Killing this thing won't have any effect on me or the real-world Bakugo, right? Izuku asked. Nope, Rin said with a pop. Crush. Without another wasted second, Heracles crushed cognitive Bakugo's head, allowing it to dissolve into shadow. Let's go, Izuku said as he walked forward, not paying the matter any more mind. After a bit of exploring, they finally stumbled upon the classroom they were looking for. This is where I should be, judging by the time that is, Izuku said as he touched the door to the classroom, ready to open it, but Rin put his arm on him to stop him. This isn't going to be easy. Breathe. Prepare yourself, Rin advised him. Izuku nodded, before taking a deep breath. All right, let's go. He opened the door, ready to face whatever horrors they'd find inside. The classroom itself was far bigger than it was in real life, roughly 50 times the size, and it looked more like a prison than a classroom, with bars on the windows. In the center of the room was Shadow Izuku, held up by black chains made of words. The words being things like weak, worthless, quirkless, and failure. The chains wrapped around his entire body, restaining his arms and legs, all the way up to his neck. In between the chains, Izuku could see his shadow holding onto a familiar notebook. Hero notes for the future. Shadow Izuku himself looked almost identical to how Izuku looked after he first met All Might. Messy hair, baggy eyes, and a pale complexion. Only he was in his middle school uniform. As they entered the room, Shadow Izuku opened his eyes, allowing them to see they were yellow instead of green. So you finally came, the shadow said in a detached tone. Honestly, I didn't think you'd get past Kaken, but you've gotten pretty full of yourself, haven't you, Deku? That notebook, Izuku said, pointing to said object. Get rid of it. Shadow Izuku glared at his other self. No, Izuku, you can't keep going like this. Rin added. That's why we're here. We're going to free you, whether you like it or not. Shadow Izuku grit his teeth and held his notebook tighter, causing the chains to tighten along with it. No one will take this from me. No matter what. I will never let go. Suddenly, the room began to shake, and they could hear whispers coming from all sides. Useless, pointless, weak, waste of space, waste of air. Jump off the roof and hope you get reborn with a quirk in your next life. The word chains wrapped around Shadow Izuku, completely obscuring him from sight and taking form, until they formed a colossus made of chains, with many faces popping out of its chest. Die! The chain colossus raised its arm, and Izuku and Ron jumped back as it slammed its arm into the ground, causing the room to shake. We need to take the notebook, Rin told him. It's controlling the chains. We take that, and we can end this. Right. Izuku nodded. Heracles appeared in front of Izuku, before jumping at the chain colossus, his weapon raised and ready to strike. Failure. The faces on the colossus roared, spitting out more harsh language, which took physical form and rushed at Heracles. Heracles batted them away, but this left him open to getting grabbed by the colossus's hand. Raw! Heracles roared, as he struggled to free himself. The chains around him broke easily, but they just kept replenishing themselves, keeping him from escaping. Arsene! Rin shouted as he summoned his own persona and shot out a massive purple flame at the colossus's wrist. Boom! The flame exploded, destroying the colossus's wrist and causing its hand to fall, freeing Heracles, who shattered the chains around him, before landing on his feet. By the time that happened, the colossus had already regrown its hand. It's regenerating too fast, Izuku pointed out. We'll never reach its chest at this rate. Don't be so sure, Rin assured him. I was prepared for this. Then, Rin pulled out a tape recorder before running towards the Colossus. The Colossus raised its foot ready to crush Rin when the therapist threw the tape recorder at its foot. The device embedded itself in between the chains and, "You can do it, caretaker," shouted Kiba's voice. Kaboom! Suddenly the foot exploded in a burst of light, completely destroying the foot of the Colossus. "Kiba!" Izuku shouted in confusion. "What was that?" "Positive affirmation from people you care about," Rin explained. "The best way to dispel harsh words." Look, the Colossus was regenerating its foot, but the process was far slower, giving them some time to breathe. "I'll create an opening. You grab the book." "Got it," Rin said. Izuku nodded. "Right." With that decided, Rin ran forward, rushing past the Colossus before throwing another recorder at the back of its other leg. "You're amazing, Dad," shouted Netsu's voice. Kaboom! The back of its leg exploded, causing it to start falling forward. "Heracles!" Izuku shouted as Heracles showed up in front of him, before jumping forward towards the Colossus and punching it, making it fall back instead. Rin aimed his grappling hook and fired it, allowing him to speed away onto the side of the wall as the Colossus fell. Then he threw a few recorders onto the Colossus's chest. "I love you, Daddy," shouted Aries' voice. "It's thanks to you we can be happy." Fu's voice said, "You've never failed us." Nara's voice said, "Don't let those jerks keep you down." Ken's voice said, "We're all rooting for you, Daddy." Kei's voice shouted, "Kaboom!" A massive explosion of light burst from the Colossus's chest, revealing Shadow Izuku underneath, clutching his notebook. "Act!" Shadow Izuku gasped as his eyes widened in fear. Izuku summoned Heracles and jumped on his back before Heracles bolted onto the fallen Colossus, running on all fours like a wild animal. "No!" Shadow Izuku roared as he used hundreds of chains from his body and launched them at Izuku, creating a tidal wave of chains. Heracles grabbed onto Izuku and threw him over the tidal wave, headed right towards Shadow Izuku. "Gah!" Shadow Izuku sent a few last desperate chains at Izuku, but Izuku kicked them aside and landed on top of his shadow self. "Enough is enough," Izuku shouted as he leaned down and grabbed onto the notebook. "No, please," Shadow Izuku cried as he tried to hold onto the notebook, but slowly but surely, it was slipping out of his grip. "It's time to let go," Izuku cried as he finally pried the notebook from his shadow's hands. Suddenly, the Colossus turned white, before glowing so bright it blinded everyone in the room. When the light died down, Izuku and Rin were standing side by side, with Shadow Izuku on his knees in front of them, the chains having vanished entirely. "My dream," Shadow Izuku said quietly, tears streaming down from his eyes. "Please don't take my dream. It was all I had. For so long. It was my only hope. I can't let it go. I won't." Izuku just looked down at his shadow, a mixture of emotions rushing through him. Pity, anger, sadness, self-loathing. "You're pathetic." I know," Shadow Izuku said. "We're a failure. No matter how hard we held on to that dream, we never even came close to achieving it. We couldn't even reach the starting line. Honestly, the lack of self-awareness here is astonishing," Rin said, jumping into the conversation, getting the attention of both Izukus. "Sure, you failed to become a hero. So what?" "What?" Both Izuku threw Rin confused looks. "You failed at becoming a hero. But that doesn't make you a failure," Rin said to both of them. "Izuku, why did you want to become a hero?" Both Izuku paused for a second before answering at the same time. "Because I thought saving people was the coolest thing you could do." "Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but you've done a lot of saving in the past year, have you not?" Rin asked. "If you judge yourself by what you haven't done then, of course, you seem like a failure. But when you look at both sides, things become a lot more clear. On one hand, you didn't become a hero. On the other hand, you took down the Yakuza, helped the Uraraka's failing business, fought and put away several villains, and helped bring forth a new era of scientific progress which you are using to cure some of the most infamous diseases known to man, among other things. Helped get my sister a job she loves, saved Tokoshi's grandson, gave Ms. Bura a job despite her being blacklisted by the HPSC, and most importantly." Rin then pulled out a photo from his pocket and threw it in front of Shadow Izuku. Both Izuku looked down at the photo and saw that it was a group photo of him and all the kids. "You created a place where all these children could laugh and smile," Rin said. even if it's not perfect all the time. You gave these kids, who had nothing, a family, friends, food, laughs, and memories they'll treasure for the rest of their lives. So, taking all that in mind, do you still think you're a failure? Neither Izuku responded to that. Instead, Shadow Izuku just picked up the photo and looked at it deeply. Those kids. Suddenly, the photo glowed, and in a flash, it transformed into another book. But rather than a notebook, it was a scrapbook, now containing hundreds of photos of all the memories he and the kids shared. Izuku smiled a bit as his shadow self flipped through the book. After a while, Izuku sat down in front of his shadow and took a deep breath. I think I've been too harsh on you. Same. Shadow Izuku agreed as he looked his other self in the eyes. We've achieved something. We did manage to help quite a bit, I guess. More than a bit. We've done a lot for a kid without a quirk. Izuku retorted. And we need to recognize that. For their sakes, if anything. Right? Shadow Izuku said, before looking up at the notebook in Izuku's hand. And there's one more thing we need to do. Izuku looked down at the notebook and then at his shadow self, before the two of them nodded. The real Izuku held out the notebook to his shadow self, who took it back. Shadow Izuku looked down at the notebook with a sad smile and tear-filled eyes. It was a nice dream, but it's time to wake up. With that, Shadow Izuku set down the notebook on the floor and watched as it promptly faded away. Shadow Izuku then picked up the scrapbook and held it to his chest. Thank you, all of you. I promise I won't fail you. Then, Shadow Izuku started to fade until he vanished entirely. Suddenly, the school started to shake and cracks appeared in the room. All right, time to make our exit, Rin said as he and Izuku started running out of the room, making their way to the exit. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Phew. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief as the two of them laid back on the couches, back in the real world. How do you feel? Rin asked. It feels like something heavy was lifted off my back, Izuku explained as he tried to come to terms with the new feelings he was experiencing. But, for some reason, I feel like I'm gonna miss it. That's what healing feels like, Rin told him. Well, I feel a lot better than worse, so I think I can say it worked. Izuku smiled. Which means we can start therapy sessions with the kids now. Right. Rin nodded. Although, Lavenza told me to warn you about something. A new distortion is appearing in your heart. One caused by all the fear and stress you've been feeling. Izuku frowned. Just be careful not to let fear control you, Rin said. If isolation is the biggest enemy of mankind, fear is not far behind. Thank you two for coming. Izuku was in his office, sitting down with Achiko and All Might, having some tea he'd brewed beforehand. No problem. Sorry I haven't been able to come by as often. Achiko apologized. It's fine. You're both very busy after all. Izuku assured them. If anything, I should be sorry for calling you here. But I have something important to discuss with you too. Whatever it is, young Midoriya, you can count on us. All Might told him with a smile. Izuku sighed, the ever-growing feeling of guilt tightening in his chest. Recently, me and Nizu have been collaborating. Yes, you've been working with Yue. All Might said. No, I mean working with Nizu. Not the whole of Yue. Izuku clarified. In secret. Oh, All Might's pupil shrunk as he realized that whatever that implied was not good. Achiko stayed silent, wondering where this was going. So you recall how those sky pirates came in and stole my flying pirate ship? Izuku asked. Well, they didn't really steal it. Huh. Achiko gave him a confused look. The sky pirates were picked out by me and Nizu, and we allowed them to steal the ship, Izuku explained. They work for us. Both of them stayed silent, neither of them sure what to say in response to that. So they stayed silent and waited for Izuku to give them the full explanation. The problem comes from the fact that we're fighting powerful enemies who've hidden in plain sight, Izuku said. The MLA has several companies funding it, such as Detnerat. The same goes for the other organizations that have been after me. It would take years of gathering evidence in order to try and take them down. That would mean years of my children being attacked and targeted, and I can't allow that. The Sky Pirates allow us to attack and gather evidence much faster than we would otherwise. By circumventing the law. All Might interjected disapprovingly. Izuku sighed. Yes, by circumventing the law. But I told you, the other option was unacceptable. There's not much I can do without circumventing the law. What else do you think I can do? I mean, he's not wrong, Ochako said with a conflicted expression. This place is supposed to be a place for children, not a battleground. The fact that he's had to go this far is proof of how ridiculous this has gotten. I understand your plight, but this is dangerous, young Midoriya. All Might said. What happens if those fake villains decide to stop listening to you and hurt someone innocent? That's a risk I have to take, Izuku said. If I don't do anything, that's a risk too. A risk that my children will keep getting attacked. And that's the bottom line. Like I said, I understand. But if the government finds out about this dash, All Might didn't get the chance to finish as Izuku cut him off. The government is in on this too, Izuku revealed. Me, Nizu, and certain members of the government all have the ability to give the Sky Pirates orders. Should you really be telling us that then? Ochako asked. Isn't that like a government cessert then? I have enough power to the point where I don't really need to worry about the government doing anything to me, Izuku said. For the most part, that is. Plus you two already know government secrets, so as you don't do anything about it, I don't think they'll care. Still, are you sure we can trust these pirates? All Might asked. Most of them had some sort of criminal record before they became the Sky Pirates. Vigilantes, the urge to use their quirks, and self-defense after years of abuse, Izuku explained. None of them bad people, All Might. Just people who've been wronged, and people who have some issues they need to work out. I trust them, and so far it seems they've been more than willing to do as they're told. And if they decide to betray that trust, then I will crush them completely and utterly. Both of them looked unsure, and after a long and tense silence, All Might spoke up. Young Midoriya, why are you telling us this? Because I don't like this, Izuku admitted. Not knowing if I'm doing the right thing. Working around the law. It just feels wrong. Even though it feels like my only solution. But if you two know, and you're with me, I'll feel a little bit better. And if I go too far, I'm counting on you to stop me. By force, if necessary. Izuku. Ochako looked at her friends with eyes full of concern before getting up and wrapping him in a hug. I'm sorry. You must have been so stressed out about all of this. I can't imagine how hard this has been for you. To make someone so kind resort to this, we'll support you. Like we always have. And if you start going down a bad path, we'll stop you in your tracks and turn you around. Got it. Izuku smiled and hugged her back. Thank you. Both of you. After Ochako and Izuku separated, Izuku went over to his desk and pulled something out. A hollow disc. But I have some more stuff I need to show you. Izuku went back to the couches and set the disc down on the table. This is going to be a lot, but I need you both to stay with me. With a press of a button, the hollow disc displayed an image of a chaos emerald. Isn't that the thing your bodyguard had? Ochako asked. Right. Recently, a new kind of energy was discovered. Chaos energy. Izuku explained. This is the energy that powers all quirks, as well as possibly the thoughts of all living things in the universe, but we're still looking into that. Regardless, this energy has two forms, pure chaos energy and impure chaos energy. Impure chaos energy is what pretty much all living beings possess and powers all quirks. It's also the power harnessed by the fractals. That's the crystal you used to heal us back at the stadium, right? Ochako asked. Izuku nodded. The fractals, due to containing the power of impure chaos energy, can basically have their own quirks that anyone can use provided they touch the fractal. Then you have pure chaos energy. It's very volatile and hard to maintain, but it's far more powerful, and theoretically, you could do just about anything you want if you can utilize it correctly. But for now, its main use is as a power source, and to enhance the power of quirks and fractals, which is what you saw with Sori. By how much? All Might asked. When Sori used it, she moved so fast. It was like watching you, All Might. Ochako said. The Chaos Emeralds are extremely powerful. They contain even more raw power than even All Might. Izuku explained, causing their eyes to widen. But most people's bodies can't fully utilize their power. They'll become extremely powerful, and they might even give you some trouble, but All Might should still be able to take them. Although I can't experience their power myself. The quirkless can't use it. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. Izuku pressed another button, and a hologram of Protoman showed up. This is Protoman, the world's first sentient artificial intelligence. All Might and Ochako gasped. Wait. Wait, Ochiko stuttered. You mean like robots that can think and feel and stuff? Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? Izuku asked optimistically, before noticing the slight fear in his friend's face. You don't have to worry about him doing the whole Terminator thing. Their minds are pretty much human, and their development has a heavy amount of oversight. Speaking of which, we're starting to get to the actual thing I wanted to talk to you about. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. With another press of a button, a new image popped up, showing two androids. They both wore orange coats with big buttons on them, orange pants, and black boots along with a black belt, and a belt buckle that had the symbol for Gamma on it. Gamma 1 had a single fin on his head and sported a red cape, while Gamma 2 had two fins and a blue cape. These are two androids that are to be made using fractals, possessing your power. One for all, Izuku explained. Huh, All Might gasped again as he spat up some blood. How did you dash? We can impart fractals with copies of people's quirks, using their DNA. Izuku explained, looking at the blood that was now on his table. And getting yours wasn't very hard. Nizu had Ochiko's blood on hand as well. But fractals don't have the full power of the quirk they copy. So Gamma 1 and 2 won't be as strong as you. Still, I feel like you should have asked us first before you pulled something like this. All Might insisted. Izuku winced guiltily. Yeah, probably. I just got ahead of myself. I'm sorry, but with these two, I won't have to worry so much about villain attacks or your retirement. All Might frowned. So that's what they're for. I understand Ochiko's meant to take your place, but she's just a student, Izuku explained. Even if she's fully capable of using one for all, she still will be stuck at UA most of the time, or just not allowed to intervene. You're a pillar of society, All Might. And without you, I fear things might get chaotic. So the Gammas are meant to help keep the peace until Ochiko graduates. Well, that's good, Ochiko said, still sounding a bit unsure. When you say it like that, I'm a bit more convinced. All Might said, having some more powerful allies is always a good thing, I suppose. Still, I think it would be best not to make more than two of these. I don't think the world is ready for it. Izuku nodded and sighed. Speaking of things the world isn't ready for, there's one more android I need to tell you about. One far more dangerous than the Gammas. Zero. An android made with the Chaos Emerald in mind, and can make full use of its power. But that would mean they'd be the most powerful thing on Earth. Ochiko surmised. Izuku nodded, which is why I put a stop to his creation. Right now he's storage, and I have no plans of completing him anytime soon. However, his existence has brought something to my attention. Are you too aware of the quirk singularity theory? It's the theory that as time goes on, and quirks get more and more powerful, it'll lead to the end of the world as we know it. All Might surmised. It's a rather grim theory. But it's not unfounded, Izuku responded. The strong have always ruled the weak. That's just how the world works. But the weak always had the numbers advantage, and eventually, they could overcome the strong if need be. However, with the way things are progressing, I don't think that'll be the case. Who do you think would win? All Might, or a million people with weak quirks? Ochiko and All Might winced, as they knew exactly what would happen in that situation. It would be a massacre. All Might, Ochiko, all for one, the Gammas, and especially Zero, Izuku said. All of you could cause mass destruction on a nightmarish scale. And what's worse is while, of course, you two wouldn't do that. But what about down the line? What if one for all gets handed to the wrong person? What if all for one steals it? Or if he just kills you and there's no one for all to stop him? Then there's the Gammas and Zero. These are powerhouses that can be produced. And sure, the Midoriya Foundation has a monopoly on the technology now, but that won't always be the case. There will be a time when the outside world will be able to make things as powerful as you. Young Midoriya, where are you going with this? All Might came out and asked. Izuku took a deep breath. This is what I wanted to talk about. Project Deicide. A project dedicated to making weapons to counter this issue. Namely, EA. A weapon designed to shoot a beam that will teleport its target across the multiverse, breaking them down atom by atom. It's basically a cosmic, multiversal wood chipper. Nothing can survive being hit by it, no matter how powerful they are. At least, in theory. Right now the weapon's plausibility is only theoretical, but I've been told so far that nothing makes the concept impossible. All it would take is one shot, and all for one would be nothing but atoms. That, All Might would be lying if he said the thought of destroying all for one so completely that his remains would be untraceable even by a microscope wasn't appealing to him. But wouldn't this become the next world-threatening power? Not at all. Izuku shook his head. It's only a weapon. You still have to hit your opponent. If you fought 1,000,000 people with this, you'd take out a good chunk of them, but you'd only be able to fire it once before they swarmed you and took it away. It's a weapon to fight one strong person rather than 1,000,000 weak people. Not to mention, these can't be mass-produced. While the weapon is not even in development yet, we do know it would require at least the power of a Chaos Emerald to work. And those are made with materials so rare that even with my deep pockets, I can't even make more than 7 of them. This is a lot to take in young Midoriya, All Might said as he leaned back. The discovery of chaos energy has advanced scientific progress significantly. Honestly, it feels like whenever I blink, my scientists have discovered a new way to rewrite the laws of reality. Izuku sympathized. But progress isn't something that can or should be stopped, only steered. Right now I have a monopoly, so I can set the foundation. And I believe this is what's best. There was another period of silence, as Ochako and All Might took all this in. Izuku, thank you for trusting us with this. And we promise to keep this all a secret. Ochako swore. We know you, and we know you'll do the right thing. This is all a bit over my head, so I can't truly cast judgment. But I agree with young Uraraka. All Might said, you've always strived to do what is just and support those around you. And that won't change anytime soon. A smile crept onto Izuku's face, and a further feeling of relief filled him. Thank you, both of you. Eri probably has one of the most upsetting stories I've heard in my life. When Eri was very young, she accidentally killed her own father. Due to how young she was, this is likely one of the first memories she has, followed shortly by the memory of her mother blaming her for the incident and abandoning her. This, along with further negative reinforcement, has caused Eri to develop major depressive disorder. It's nowhere near as bad as it was before, but it seems she's still quick to blame herself for ridiculous things. Not much information can be found on what happened while Eri was in her grandfather's care, but it didn't last long before overhaul took over and her own personal hell started. She was isolated in a small cold room underground, never allowed to go outside or even see the sun. She was verbally abused on a near-daily basis. And worst of all, she'd be subjected to cruel physical torment, being ripped apart and put back together without any use of anesthetics or pain relievers. Now I don't like the idea of murder. Lives are valuable and people can change. But if I had the chance, I don't think I could resist the option of violently murdering Kai Chisaki. Fortunately, I won't need to worry about that, because someone did the world a favor and took him out of it. Back to Eri. Fortunately, Eri has had many of her worst memories of that time taken away by her sister Kyoku, but she still remembers much of it. She's developed ornithophobia due to the bird-like mask the Yakuza would often wear for some reason. At first, she had a severe fear of needles and other medical equipment. However, it seems she's gotten over it after having her blood taken in a more sensible manner. To a worrying degree, in fact. It appears that Eri's torment has led her to having an unnatural apathy to all but the most extreme forms of pain, even leading her to perform self-harm at one point. Her quirk doesn't help that matter, as it allows her to heal herself consequence-free, making injury even more negligible. Speaking of her quirk adding to her mental issues, her quirk is called Rewind. It allows her to rewind organic objects back to a previous state in pretty much any way imaginable. The amount of things this quirk can do is so vast that it would take all day for me to list them. But suffice it to say, this may be one of the most powerful quirks to exist in human history. This has caused Eri some additional stress for 2 main reasons. 1, she has to constantly worry about people out for her blood, literally, and 2, due to her good nature and influence from her father, she believes she has a responsibility to use this power to help others, which is a good thing. However, she can only do so much at once, and she's a child, so there are some issues there. Overall, however, despite all this, Eri has proven extremely resilient. Recovering from that nightmare of a life, she lived at astounding speed with far fewer mental issues than most would have gotten from that experience. Some would call it a miracle. I call it a triumph. Kei Midoriya. I'll be honest, Kei Midoriya scares me. If Eri's mind is strong, Kei is near invincible. Despite being thrown out, treated like dirt by disgusting quirkists, and forced to live on the street. The girl seems to have no notable mental issues. She's an overwhelmingly positive girl who's an aggressive optimist, rolling with the world's punches better than anyone I've ever seen. Normally, I'd think such positivity would be a mask or a coping mechanism, but now, further observation shows that she really is just that positive. I doubt she'll need much help from me. Kiba Midoriya. Kiba is a classic case of dissociation. Due to her quirk and discouraging words from her birth parents, Kiba can't help but view herself as a destructive parasite. And in order to cope with that, she crafted this fantasy persona of Kiba, the Queen of Eternal Darkness, with this grand made-up backstory. Kiba is aware of this, but she still has issues taking off the mask, so to speak. And she can become easily depressed if she accidentally causes trouble. Fu Midoriya. Fu is a rather tricky case. Due to his quirk, his emotions are muted. This results in Fu feeling absolutely nothing at times, a feeling he utterly detests, leading to him seeking out any form of emotional stimulation, more often than not being other people. You can say Fu is somewhat dependent on others emotionally, but he won't fall apart if you leave him alone for a couple hours. After that, it's not clear. Fu also seems to have suffered from depression before his bond with Kyosei, who I won't yet be seeing as they are a baby, due to his rather weak abilities compared to his peers. Although after bonding with Kyosei he appears to have amended, that it further increased his reliance on others. Sansen Midoriya. The poor girl had been trapped in a glass jar for a full year, and as such, she has developed an intense claustrophobia. Sansen is constantly moving around, never once staying still, and avoiding any and all types of confinement. Most notably, she detests wear clothes and avoids being inside her room. She can also be somewhat prone to violence, but not due to malicious intent, more due to just finding it cool. Kyoka Midoriya. Kyoka suffered from emotional abuse at the hands of her birth family, causing her to grow extremely angry and spiteful, possibly developing some level of psychopathy, made worse by the fact that she can see into others' memories, and the memories she's seen don't exactly paint humanity in a positive light. She can be rather violent and prone to using her quirk without consent, although this has somewhat lessened in her time at the Midoriya Foundation. Although she still grows irritable at the sight of happy birth families, it appears she still hasn't completely detached herself mentally from her old family, despite her love for her new one. Shiruku Midoriya. Shiruku Midoriya is mostly mentally sound. She has some slight self-esteem issues related to her body. People don't exactly call spiders attractive, so you can imagine how you'd feel if you were a half spider. Yami Midoriya. Yami is another interesting case. All things considered, he should have quite a few issues. His parents were killed when he was young. He was forced to survive by himself in the wild for most of his life. And when he did join civilization, he learned that both his powers and appearance were considered to be unsightly by the larger world. Yet despite this, he's one of the most well-adjusted and mentally sound kids here. This seems to be due to a feeling of emotional detachment from societal norms and pressures. He doesn't really care about his birth parents because he never met them. He doesn't lament having to grow up in the wild or looking like he does. It's just something he has to deal with. It's all so matter-of-fact to him. I suppose Mr. Midoriya's influence helped, as he knows he always has people who will support him regardless of his quirk and appearance. Although he does appear to be a little insecure about the dubious implication of his quirk. Fukunoko Midoriya. Fuku is a rather heartwarming case. Being emotionally, verbally, and physically abused by her birth father, Fuku developed an intense persecution complex, as well as agoraphobia and anthropophobia, leading her to never leave her room at first. However, once she got to the Midoriya Foundation, it became clear she was aware of this and wanted to overcome it. And with the help of the other children, she's drastically improved, leaving her room and interacting with the other children on a regular basis, although she does avoid being in large crowds, even here. Despite her immense growth, she's still extremely cautious around new people and tends to slide back into her old habits. And she has never left the Midoriya Foundation grounds. Kai Midoriya. Kai is another case where there really isn't much to say. The boy is rather stable, despite some of the verbal abuse that's been thrown at him. He's a bit self-conscious and overly cautious, but with his size, that's mostly a good thing. Mu Midoriya. Mu's most notable issue is his extreme social anxiety disorder. He refuses to be seen by people, but he has no issue interacting with them, so long as he's not being looked at. This seems to be a natural response rather than something caused by his upbringing, as even Mu doesn't know why he's like that. Perhaps it's a psychological effect of his quirk. Yonda Midoriya. Oh boy, this one is a doozy. Yonda has an extreme case of agoraphobia, leading her to seek out ways to feel and control. This often takes the form of manipulation. Yonda feels powerful when she gets people to do what she wants, and the feeling is quite addicting. This has led to some friction in the Midoriya house. Although it appears Yonda genuinely believed up until recently that she was doing what she was doing for purely good reasons. That's not to say she's a bad person, just misguided and hurt. Fortunately, we can step in and intervene before her bad habits develop into something worse. Ken Midoriya. Ken suffers from borderline personality disorder. He exhibits aggressive and reckless behavior, as well as an inflated ego, although this appears to be a cover for his self-loathing. After an incident in which he almost killed his sister due to his quirk, Ken seems to have developed a subconscious self-hatred, thinking himself to be dangerous and even evil, although he refuses to acknowledge it. Kira Midoriya. Another dozy. The first and most notable issue is dissociative identity disorder. Due to our limited information, it's unclear if Nise or Kira is the author or when this disorder developed. Nise has amnesia and is rather unsure about, well, everything. The poor girl is rather timid due to her lack of knowledge and her situation and seems to be developing some form of agoraphobia. Not much information is available on Kira, and she doesn't come out to talk very much. What is known is that she was a child assassin, killing in exchange for affection from her parents. It appears she didn't have much sympathy for her victims, although she didn't appear to find any joy in taking lives either. However, she appears to be cooperating with us for the time being. Aka Midoriya, aka, is rather similar to Kyoku, but more extreme. AKA has an intense hatred of villains, due to them having killed her friends and family, to the point where she actually tortured a man who she called evil, and he was. Although she seems to have a thing against killing, which is good. Perhaps she views that as the line she shouldn't cross. Shina Midoriya. Shina, like Kira, was a former child assassin, and like Kira, she doesn't seem to feel all that much remorse. She does feel bad for the people she killed, but it appears she thinks of that as her parents' fault rather than her own, which is fair. Shina also appears to have some confidence issues, both in her abilities and her appearance. In terms of abilities, Shina is unfortunately not very capable in most aspects. However, her quirk would allow her to be proficient at anything. But due to her parents judging her value by her quirk alone, she seems to want to do things with her own natural abilities. In terms of her appearance, Shina has discovered the world of cosmetics and has become addicted to them. It's been reported that she's been learning about them with a feverish determination, and she's been seen without her makeup on less and less. While it's good that she's become more confident, I worry she may develop a dependency on cosmetics. Jin Midoriya. Jin has a medical condition that causes him to be extremely tired most of the time. As a result of this, Jin seems to want to interact with people as little as possible and sleep almost all of the time. Even when he's awake, he prefers to be alone. It's possible that Jin is somehow the least sociable child in the Foundation, which says a lot. Inu Midoriya. Inu appears to be mostly stable, however, appears like she had an emotional connection to her father that her sisters didn't share. Yawn. Futaba stretched as she finished going over some calculations. Sitting down in her office. She'd been pretty busy as of late, with her work being the foundation for several other projects after all. Ugh, Ren's gonna kill me for staying up this late, Futaba said as she drank some coffee. But he's the one who gave me the coffee, so he only has himself to blame. With some fuel added to her tank, Futaba got back to work. Or at least she would have. Shum. Suddenly a bright flash of light engulfed the room, coming from behind Futaba. Huh. Futaba stood up and turned around, and saw two figures engulfed in light. And when the light died down, she got a clearer image of the two who had appeared in her lap. One was a blonde teenage girl in a blue dress, with bright blue eyes and a blue headband. The other was a small child with black spiky hair, with red tips. He was wearing a hospital gown, and he looked worse for wear. He was sweating like he was in a sauna, and his breathing was heavy and labored. His eyes were only half open, as it looked like he was trying to stay awake. But what was most notable was the fact that he appeared to be holding a Chaos Emerald. BRRRRRR. 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 Intruder alert. Intruder alert. Intruder detected in the lab of Dr. Futaba Akira. The girl panicked and picked up the child before running out of the lab. Futaba, what's going on? Protoman said through Futaba's communicator. 2 people teleported into my lab. I think it was an accident, but they're panicking, and one of them looks like he's sick. Futaba was actually proud of how well she managed to say all that without devolving into panic nonsense. And the boy is holding a Chaos Emerald. Shit, Protoman swore. He could tell this was going to be complicated. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX But she couldn't stop. If she stopped, they were dead. She could see the exit to the lab, and she ran towards it as fast as her feet would take her. Then Protoman dropped down, standing in front of the exit. Freeze. Don't move. The girl didn't stop and just looked at Protoman fearfully, continuing her charge, while clutching the boy in arms protectively. The boy grunted a bit and clutched the emerald tighter. Shum. Suddenly the two were enveloped in light and disappeared, before appearing behind Protoman and running away from him. Damn it. Protoman turned around and turned his arm into a cannon. Stop. This is your last warning. But the girl didn't stop. She kept running towards the forest, not paying Protoman's words any mind. I warned you, Protoman said, as he aimed his weapon and fired. Pew! Oh! The girl screamed out in pain as the laser blast hit her leg. It was a low-power shot, so it didn't do more than burn her leg, but that was enough to make the girl limp instead of run. But the girl had already made it into the forest and ran in between the trees. TCH. Protoman switched on his chaos energy detector, locking onto the two's chaos energy signatures, only to find something startling. The girl was basically undetectable, which meant she was likely quirkless. But the boy was emitting ludicrous amounts of chaos energy, similar to that of the emerald he held. This just keeps getting more and more complicated, Protoman said before he started running after them. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX forest, the cold night air rushing past her face and stinging against her burnt leg. She definitely wasn't at her lab. But then who was that person who shot her? Was Gun looking for them here too? It didn't matter. At least not right now. All that mattered was getting out of here with their lives. Hiya. Maria's eyes widened, and she froze. In front of her was a pack of apathy, looking right at her with their nightmarish eyes. Rah! The apathy roared, causing the girl to recoil in pain at just how loud their screeches were as the Grimm stumbled towards her. The girl immediately turned around and was about to run back, only to find Protoman behind her, aiming his cannon at her. She turned to her left and saw a hound blocking that way. On her right, a pack of sulfurfish. The boy, although his vision was blurry, could tell they were surrounded. And so he clutched the emerald tight. Don't, Protoman ordered as he ran towards them. Shum. But it was too late. In a flash of light, they were gone. Damn it, that is an annoying power, Protoman said as he looked around trying to lock onto the boy's signal and finding him miles away in the forest. With that, he ran off to try and catch them once again. In a flash of light, the two were now somewhere else in the forest, alone. Ugh! The boy went limp, and the emerald dropped as the boy fell unconscious. Look! The girl looked down at the boy in alarm and quickly pressed her ear against his chest, relieved to find his heart still beating. But that moment of weakness caused her to crumble and fall to the ground. She felt herself lose feeling in her body. The world started to spin, and her eyes began to flutter. Sleep took her before she could even attempt to resist. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX consciousness. Beep, 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 beep. She could hear the sound of a heart monitor and several other machines around. Am I in a hospital? She thought, as she finally opened her eyes, wincing a bit as light, before her eyes adjusted and she took in her surroundings. She was in one of the Midoriya Foundation bedrooms, lying down in a bed, with loads of medical equipment surrounding her. This doesn't look like a hospital, she said to herself. Where am I? Surprisingly, her body felt fine, so she tried to sit up, only to be stopped as she noticed some rather tight bindings around her wrist, keeping her from moving around too much. She struggled a bit, trying to free herself, but she soon found that it was a pointless endeavor. The girl froze as she saw the door open up. Izuku stepped in, with Sai at his side. Notably, he appeared to be wearing more casual clothes, that being a white shirt and jeans. I apologize for the bindings, but I had to take precautions seeing as you broke onto my property, Izuku said in English. What? The girl paused. She definitely wasn't at her grandfather's lab anymore. So wherever this was, must be this person's property. I didn't mean to. I swear I don't know how we go here. We don't want to hurt anyone or steal anything, I swear. In response, Izuku pulled out a green crystal and stared at it for a few seconds before putting it back in his pocket. Sai went over to the girl and leaned down. The girl flinched, not knowing what she'd do, but much to their relief, they were just undoing their bindings. Again, I'm sorry for that. But now that I know you don't mean any harm, we can talk normally, Izuku said as he pulled up a chair and sat next to her bed. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Yours, Maria Metallic, the girl said, giving him a confused look. That name, it doesn't sound Chinese. It's not. Izuku returned her confusion. It's Japan's. Do you think you're in China? I'm not. Maria looked even more confused as well as shocked and concerned. No, you're in Japan, Izuku explained, looking perplexed. Did that boy teleport you all the way from China to Japan? Well, he did have a Chaos Emerald, so it's not like it's impossible, and would explain why he was in such rough shape. Wait, Lou, where is he? Is he okay? Maria asked frantically. He's in another room. He was extremely exhausted, and his body was in a peculiar state, Izuku said. But thanks to our technology, he's stable at the moment, although he's still unconscious. Oh, thank God, Maria said. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you want to thank me, you can start by explaining a few things, Izuku said, before taking out the Chaos Emerald from his pocket. Like how you got this. That was the most confusing part of this whole situation, as well as the most concerning. All of their Chaos Emeralds had been accounted for, which could only mean that this Chaos Emerald was not made by them. The gem. My grandfather gave it to me. Maria explained, her expression darkening and fear filling her eyes. He said to take it and run. Run from what? Izuku asked, becoming more and more intrigued. From GUN. Maria explained with a bitter look. They were a private military company my grandfather worked with. But one day they just turned on us and started killing people in the lab. I don't know why, but grandfather just told me and Lu to take the emerald and run. We were being chased, and then everything turned white, and we were in your lab. I see. Izuku pondered, before giving her a sympathetic look. I'm sorry for your loss, but at least you and your friend made it out with your lives. He's my cousin, Maria explained. He has a health problem. My grandfather was trying to fix him using that gem. He said it held powerful energy, with potential beyond anything the world had ever seen. Well, he wasn't wrong, Izuku said. Those experiments probably amplified his quirk, which is why he has so much power. Quirk? Maria questioned. What do you mean by quirk? Izuku gave her another confused quirk. His quirk. Meta ability. His superpower. Superpower. Maria's eyes widened, as she finally put everything together. Lu has superpowers. That's how he teleported us. But how? And why were you calling it a quirk? Now Izuku was even more confused. Because that's what everyone calls them. Maria looked just as confused. What do you mean that's what everyone calls them? Does anyone besides Lu have superpowers? Is that a real question? Izuku was beyond confused. Most of the world had quirks. It was weirder not to have one. How could she not know about them? Where are you from exactly? New York, Maria answered. But I moved to China with my grandfather after my parents died. Izuku took out the crystal again, but it was still green, proving she was telling the truth. That doesn't make any sense. Unless something's wrong with memory. Ms. Maria, do you know what year it is? How long was I asleep? Maria asked, wanting to make sure she hadn't been in a coma. 3 days, Izuku answered. Then it should still be 2037, Maria answered, only to be confused when Izuku and Sai's eyes went as wide as dinner plates. Izuku took out the crystal again, but it was still green, and he looked back at Maria with a dead serious expression. Ms. Maria, do you truly believe that it's 2037? I did. But you're making me doubt it. Maria answered honestly. When were you born? Izuku asked her. 2020, Maria answered. Izuku looked at the crystal. Still green. That's so. Sir, I know the crystal didn't turn red, but perhaps something may be wrong with her head? Sai suggested. Speaking in Japanese to Maria couldn't understand. There was no record of her in any database. Izuku responded in Japanese, and the machines didn't detect any damage to her head or brain. I know it might be hard to believe, but with chaos energy, anything's possible. Izuku turned back to Maria and paused. As he tried to figure out what to say, is something wrong? Maria asked, getting a bit unnerved by the sudden turn the mood in the room took. Ms. Maria, 2037. Izuku paused. Was over 200 years ago. Ugh. Lu groaned as he opened his eyes. My head. Lu. Before Lu could get his bearings, Maria threw herself onto him and wrapped her arms around his small body. Ack. Maria, could you quiet down? My head hurts. Lu complained, while also hugging her back and taking a look around the room. He was laying in bed in the infirmary at the Midoriya Foundation. Where are we? Did we escape from GUN? Yes. Thanks to you. We're safe now, Maria assured him with a soft smile, but Lu could see in her eyes. Something was off. Maria, what happened? Lu asked. Where are we? That's difficult to explain, Maria said with a frown. I still don't fully understand it myself. It's probably best if we wait for him to show up. Lu was about to ask who he was when suddenly Izuku popped in. Hey, I see he's finally awake. You two can come to my office. We can talk there. Who are you? Lu asked with an accusing tone, glaring daggers at Izuku. Sorry. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I own everything around here. Izuku explained. I can explain more in my office. Please follow me. Unless you want more time to yourselves, which is also fine. I think it'd be best if we figured everything out now, Maria said, before looking over to Lu. Lu, please let's trust him for now. We really don't have a lot of other options. Fine. Lu hesitantly agreed as he hopped out of bed. The moment he did, he noticed two things. One, his body felt better than it ever had before, which was strange. Could have sworn he was dying the last time he was conscious. And two, there were two gold rings around his wrists. What are these? Those are something I was developing for another child who had a similar issue to you. Izuku explained. I can explain what they are further in my office. Let's go. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Maria and Lu sat on one couch, and Izuku sat on the other. So, from what Ms. Maria has told me, it appears that somehow you teleported from China to Japan. Over 200 years later, Izuku said. Excuse me. Lu scoffed, giving Izuku a questioning look. Who'd believe a story that stupid? Lu, he's telling the truth, Maria told him, causing Lu to look at her like she was crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but he showed me proof. News articles, new technologies. We really did jump over 200 years into the future. How? Was Lee's first question, as he looked back and forth between Izuku and Maria, desperate for answers. That would be thanks to your quirk, Izuku explained. Quirks are basically superpowers. They started appearing a little after you vanished, and now over 80% of the world has them. 80%? Maria exclaimed. How did that happen so quickly? I know you said it's been over 200 years, but still. It's a combination of decreasing quirkless births, World War III, and the culling of much of the quirkless population, Izuku explained, getting horrified and confused looks from the other two. When quirks started appearing, naturally there were many people who viewed people with quirks as freaks and tried to get rid of them. But as the quirked population grew and quirks started becoming stronger, that mentality backfired and exploded into a bloody and terrible war, as well as many atrocities, which is what led to the current population situation. Dear God, Maria uttered. This is insane, Lu said, looking utterly stupefied. This is all insane. He looked up at Izuku with an accusatory glare. Prove it. Show me your superpower. Izuku sighed. Unfortunately, I don't have a quirk. I'm one of less than 20% of the population born without one. But my daughter does. Sanson, I know you're up there. Plop. Maria and Lu flinched as Sanson dropped down from the ceiling and landed on Izuku's lap before quickly wrapping around him, bringing him into a big hug. Geez, You know you shouldn't be eavesdropping. Izuku lightly scolded as he patted the head she just formed. Sorry, wanted to surprise you. Sanson apologized while snuggling up against her father. That's fine, but you need to wait. Daddy is doing something important right now, Izuku told her. Please just go play for a little while, and I'll give you an extra long hug later, okay? Sanson pouted a bit, but complied, bouncing onto the floor and sliding to the door before sliding under it and out of the room. Izuku then turned his attention back to his guests, who were both staring at him, absolutely stunned. Do you need any more examples? Because I can dash. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Suddenly, Kai came up to Izuku's window. Dad, I'm gonna go flying. Just don't go too far away, Izuku told him, as Kai turned around and flapped his wings, taking to the sky. Once again, Izuku turned his attention back to his guest, who somehow looked even more stunned. I swear that wasn't scripted. It's just my weird luck. Those are your children? Maria said like she didn't believe the words coming out of her mouth, and looked at Izuku like he had 3 heads. Although to be fair, that wouldn't make things that much stranger. How dash? They're adopted. Let's leave it at that, Izuku told them. Explaining how all this came about is a story that's almost as unbelievable as the time travel thing. And don't ask any questions about my age. That'll only make things more confusing. So people really have superpowers, Luz said in absolute awe before looking down at his own hands. And I have one of these quirks. Most certainly, although we don't know much about it, Izuku explained. Right now all we can tell is that you can travel through space and time, at least with the help of this. Izuku then pulled out the Chaos Emerald and put it on the table. The gem. Lu quickly grabbed the emerald and held it close. That is something we call a Chaos Emerald, Izuku explained. And it's not something that should exist outside of the Midoriya Foundation. It's something that was only recently created. At least that's what we believed. Until you came along. Grandfather said he created that gem to save Lo, and that it was extremely powerful. Maria explained. That's all we know. Lo looked down at the emerald. He could feel something from it. Power. Power beyond anything he could imagine. But unlike the last time he held it, it felt different. Maybe it was because of the bands. That's not much to go on. Izuku pondered. But there's something else that's bothering me. You said you were from 2037, correct? Right, Maria confirmed. It was in 2038 that the first known case of a quirk appeared. In China, Izuku revealed, surprising the two of them once more. That means Lo had a quirk, a year before the first known case of a quirk ever appeared. What's more, Chaos Emeralds are massive sources of chaos energy, which is the energy all quirks draw from. It's what lets them function. So the fact that your grandfather was experimenting with it before the first case of a quirk came to be probably isn't a coincidence. You think my grandfather might have been the cause of all this? Maria asked. It's possible, but there's too little information to come to a real conclusion, Izuku explained. Especially because the Chin's government liked to hide important information. After that, a brief period of silence filled the room, as all 3 occupants mulled over and digested the information presented to them. Izuku was trying to figure out how to solve this mystery. Maria was processing that she was over 200 years in the future in a world where her grandfather may have given everyone superpowers. And Lu was coming to terms with having superpowers and what that meant for him and Maria. But after a while, Izuku put those thoughts aside and spoke up. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I know you two are still processing all this, but I do think we should talk about what you're going to do now. That statement hit Maria like a cold bucket of water. She and Lu were alone, stuck in the future, with no family or friends to help them, and not a single cent on them. Not to mention no identification. You don't need to worry so much, Izuku assured them as he saw Maria break into a cold sweat. I've decided I'm going to help you as much as I can, so you won't be working with nothing. Why? Lu asked somewhat rudely, mostly out of confusion. We're strangers who broke into your lab. But you healed us. Let us sleep here. And now you're going to help us more? Why? What are you getting out of this? Lu, be a little more polite. Maria hissed desperately. She'd be lying if she said she wasn't curious about that too, but she didn't want to antagonize the person who was literally their only lifeline. It's fine. You two must be on edge after everything that's happened. You don't need to hold yourselves back that much. Izuku assured them with a smile. As for your question, well, there are a few reasons I want to help you out. Aside from it just being the right thing to do. Firstly, That chaos emerald. Lu held the gem closer to him. You can't have it. Don't worry, I'm not going to try and take it. I have a few of them actually, Izuku explained. But I can't say the same for the government. Chaos emeralds right now are the exclusive property of the Midoriya Foundation. All except that one. So naturally, if you don't have my protection, the government would almost definitely try and take it. And use it for who knows what. Why don't they just make their own? Lu asked. 2 reasons. 1, they don't know how, and 2, they don't have the materials. Izuku explained. Because the materials to make these are very rare, and I bought pretty much all of them available. So you're like, super rich, huh? Lu noted. Very soon, I will likely be the richest person in the world, Izuku explained. But putting that aside, my second reason I want to help you is because I'd like to keep an eye on Lu. Lu raised an eyebrow and gave him an inquisitive look, encouraging him to explain himself. As I said, quirks are powered by chaos energy. So often, the more chaos energy a person's body holds, the more powerful they are. This isn't always the case, as sometimes it takes more energy to do things that are overall less useful. Like it'd take more chaos energy to teleport 2 feet than it would to destroy a building. Izuku explained. But that's more the exception rather than the rule. And Lu has more chaos energy than anyone else on Earth, meaning that he will almost certainly be labeled as an OPC. And OPC? Maria asked. It means overly powerful child, Izuku explained. Children with quirks too powerful or uncontrollable for them to live normal lives. Those children all end up here. So why go through all that and get the government involved when we can just cut to the chase? And lastly, you two may be too key to understanding the origin of quirks, something that's been a mystery for hundreds of years. But the main reason is simply because if I don't help you, who will? Once again, everyone went silent as understanding set in. Here's what I suggest. You two stay here. Izuku said. Ms. Maria can work as a helper in my facility and earn money, as well as get free food and shelter. All the while we can help Lu learn how to use his quirk. What do you think? Lu was about to speak up when Maria put her hand over his mouth. Can we have a minute? Of course. Izuku nodded before standing up. I'll go see if the food I had prepared for us is ready. I should be back in a few minutes. Is that okay? It should be fine. Thank you, Maria said, as the two gave each other polite smiles, and Izuku took his leave. Maria gave Lu a stern look and took her hand off his mouth. Lu, you need to stop being difficult. That person is our only ally here, and you're going to make him upset. I don't trust him. Lu pouted. Don't trust him or don't want to trust him? Maria asked him. Lu didn't answer, instead just looking away from her. Maria sighed. Lu, do you want us to die? Of course not. Lu scoffed, still not looking at her. Do you think we can survive in the future without him? Maria asked him. When we have no other friends, no family, no money, no identities, no idea what's changed in the past 200 years, and with no idea what's happening to your body. Lee's expression softened as he realized just how heavily the odds were stacked against them. Lu, what if someone tried to hurt me? Maria asked. Almost everyone in the world has superpowers. I would be defenseless. I could defend you, Lu said as he looked down at the Chaos Emerald. How? Maria asked. Do you know how you did that teleport thing? Do you know how to use your powers at all? Or what they might even do to you? Once again, Lu fell silent. Maria wrapped her arms around Lu. One day, Lu. One day we won't have to rely on anyone. But that day isn't today. Okay. Lu agreed hesitantly. Fine. As if on cue, Izuku came back in, holding a tray of sandwiches. Hey, do you need more time? Grrrr. Upon seeing the food, Lu and Maria finally realized how hungry they were. No, I think we're done, Maria said, her eyes and Lee's honed on the sandwiches. Great. So what's your answer? Izuku said as he went over and set the sandwiches down, only for Lu to immediately grab 2 and start stuffing his face. We'll accept, Maria said, barely holding herself back. Izuku smiled. Good. Then please, eat. And we can talk more about your employment. Maria did not need to be told twice. Is this really necessary? Maria asked as she wore her new maid outfit, made by none other than Shiruku. Of course. You are a maid after all. Shiruku insisted. And all maids must wear the appropriate garb. It's the law. I really hope that's not actually a law. Maria thought to herself. Then again, that would be far from the strangest thing that's happened. In the end, she didn't argue back. Was it because the girl in question was a spider-legged person with 5 eyes? That might have had something to do with it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX hands clenched around a plunger. She was currently in Sori's room, with the woman herself, stuck with her upper half in the toilet. How? Maria went silent, as she wasn't sure what to say really. What did you say to the sight of a cat girl stuck in a toilet? Oh hey, are you the new hire? Sori asked from within the toilet. Hey, welcome. Mind getting me out? Kinda got stuck. How? Maria repeated with a look of pure befuddlement. Well, you see, I wanted to see if I could travel through the toilet. You know, in case of an emergency. Sori explained. So yeah, that's how I got here. Okay, but how did you fit half of our body down the toilet? Maria asked. Determination and a few broken bones, Sori revealed. Speaking of which, can you please get me out? This kinda hurts. You're an idiot, was all Maria could say before she went to figure out how the heck to do this. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. For the second time today, Maria was looking at the sight in front of her, completely stupefied. The training room was once again covered in blood, guts, and other fleshy parts. Even some bones. You get used to it, Kiba said. She, Fu, and the Cerberus sisters were all forced to help, seeing as they helped in making this mess. Bwaff, Maria vomited, adding something else for her clean. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Ugh. Maria collapsed on her bed. After spending hours cleaning the training room, she immediately took a shower and then decided to relax with some scented candles Izuku had given her beforehand. And after dealing with a room that smelled of death, yet no one actually died in it, she understood why. Thankfully, Izuku seemed about as generous as she thought he was. Aside from the aforementioned candles, as well as the free room and food, her pay was also beyond what she could have ever expected, which helped make up for the work she had to do to get it. And she was allowed regular breaks after certain tasks. Cleaning the training room was one of those tasks. She took a deep breath of air, which had a sweet vanilla scent thanks to the candles. It was great, but it was really making her want some sweets. Knock, knock, knock. Maria pouted before getting up to answer the door. On the other side was Fuku, wearing her hoodie over her face, with a plate of cookies in her hand. Welcome, Fuku said nervously. Huh, how convenient, Maria thought as she took the plate. She wanted to pat Fuku on the head, but Izuku had given her one main rule to follow. If you don't know what they do, don't touch them. Thank you. Maria gave her a gentle smile instead, which the other girl took as a cue that her job was done, and ran away. Must be shy. I'll do something for her later. With that, she closed the door, set down the plate on her bed, and laid back down, before scooping one of the cookies into her mouth. Good, Maria said. Normally, she wasn't the biggest fan of chocolate, but there were some exceptions, like these very well-made cookies. That girl has a future in baking. After a few minutes spent relaxing and eating cookies, Maria suddenly got a message on her phone. Ding. A room caught fire. Please clean it up once your break is done. Read the text. Never could she have imagined the word "a room caught fire" would be used so casually. But here it was. This was her life now. How did things get like this? Maria asked as she stared up at the ceiling. Memories flashed through her mind. You must protect Liden. She remembered her grandfather saying frantically as he gave Lu the emerald. Use this and get out of here. And don't look back. Had he anticipated she'd end up here? Probably not. But he probably knew Lu could teleport. He was probably the reason behind that. Did he cause quirks to happen on purpose? Or was it some kind of freak accident? Why did Jiun even try to kill them? So many questions. She may never have the answers. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Hey. Izuku greeted casually. Sir, why are you tied to the bed? Maria asked. She'd been asked to take Izuku's food up to him. Little did she know the reason for this was because Izuku had been tied to his bed from the legs down. Oh, yeah, I guess this is weird out of context. Izuku chuckled nervously. You see, one thing I'm just terrible at is maintaining my own health. I've gotten better with it, but before I was so bad with it, it got to the point where I collapsed and had to go to the hospital for a little while. So everyone gets a bit concerned when I forget to sleep, eat, or take breaks. And they do this. How do you forget to sleep and eat? Maria asked. Izuku shrugged. Maria sighed. Sir, I'll be honest with you. The more time I spend here, the more I'm convinced that I'm not really in the future, but I've just gone insane, or am in some kind of fever dream coma. Really? I think the same thing sometimes. Izuku revealed. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX for this job. Currently, she was in an underground pit, looking over a building-sized pile of poop and garbage. "Welcome to the stench pit," Chol said, as she walked into a side room with a bunch of controls. She too was in a special suit, meant to keep the stench out. "This is where we put all the garbage, as well as Kai's poo. Your job will be to come into this room once a week and dispose of all of this using this control panel. First, seal all the entrances and exits." Chol pressed a button, and all the exits, vents, and openings were shut by blast doors. "Next, we destroy everything inside." Chol pressed another button. "Also, don't get close to the glass." The sounds of machines coming to life rang through the facility, and the whole place started to shake a little. "What is dash?" Maria was cut off, as suddenly, everything on the other side of the pit was enveloped in white. The light would have been blinding had their helmets not had shaded visors, and the shaking intensified, making Maria almost lose her balance. When the light died down, they could see into the chamber again, only to find it completely empty, with a cloud of smoke and fumes left behind. "What just happened?" Maria asked. "I have no idea, but I've been assured it's safe," Chol said dismissively. "Anyway, next you need to do is clear out the fumes." With another press of a button, everything opened up, and fans started sucking the toxic air out of the chamber. "And then, for safety measures, set everything on fire," Chol added, before pressing yet another button. Flush. Suddenly, the chamber burst into flames for a few seconds, before returning to normal. "I noticed a lot of things get set on fire in this place," Maria said. "Well, to be fair, 3 of the kids here breathe fire, and one of them is literally on fire at all times. So that's to be expected," Chol said. "Anyway, wait a few minutes for things to cool down, and then you're done here. Just make sure to put your suit in the decontamination box before you leave." "Does it decontaminate things using fire?" Maria asked half-jokingly. "Probably," Chol said completely seriously. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. "All right, do we have any idea what the heck just happened?" Futaba asked, sitting in the meeting room with Mai and Hikari. "Why do we have time travelers?" "We looked into it, and just before they appeared, the Chaos Emeralds started acting strange," Mai explained. "They started glowing, but we couldn't tell exactly what they were doing. They stopped this behavior after those 2 appeared, so there's a good chance the 2 things are related," Hikari explained. "Perhaps their Chaos Emerald was attracted to the energy of ours, which might also explain how they traveled such a ludicrous distance, let alone over 200 years into the future. So our Chaos Emeralds might have been acting like some kind of beacon?" Futaba mused. "But that just brings up the question, how the heck did they have one in the first place?" "Well, we have some theories," Mai said. "Judging from our current knowledge, it's possible that whoever was in charge of the lab they came from discovered chaos energy before the appearance of quirks. And something happened there that caused the emergence of quirks. So are we thinking the Chin's government did something shady?" Futaba said. "Maybe the lab exploded and leaked radiation everywhere, and the government hid it because, that's what they do. Wouldn't be the first time they hid something potentially harmful leaking out into the public." Hikari sighed. "At least this time it resulted in superpowers and not a plague. Still, that also means the chances of us finding out what happened is low. Not only does the Chinese government like to hide things, but they probably don't even know what happened themselves." Futaba pouted. "Which sucks. Let's not be too hasty. Maybe once our influence grows, China might be more willing to cooperate." Mai mused. "I mean, we're going to be curing cancer soon. I still can't believe that's finally going to happen," Futaba said. "Well, believe it," Hada said as he walked in. Then, suddenly a sentient human-like blob of water walked in behind him. It was very slender, and the only parts of it that didn't look to be made of water were its bright yellow eyes. Hey, I told you to stay back in the lab," Hada told them, as the creature looked up at him like a lost puppy. "What in the world?" Mai looked at the creature in awe and confusion. Is that the hound we melted? What happened to them? Oh, well, after I figured out the whole chaos energy can create sentient life thing, I decided to go back them and test them a bit, Hadar explained, while petting Chaos's head. So I started feeding them fractals until they had enough energy to maintain a form. Also, one of them ended up purifying the negative chaos energy by accident. So that's why they're all watery. Fascinating. They're not dangerous, right? I asked. Well, yes and no, Hada answered. They could be. They can absorb chaos energy from pretty much anything. Fractals, plants, animals, people, and chaos emeralds. So they could grow into a powerful threat. However, at the moment they seem pretty tame. They kind of remind me of a child. Well then, for now, we'll just keep an eye on them, I ordered. Don't let them leave the lab, and make sure they don't get near the chaos emeralds or the fractals. Got it. Now then, back to what I came here for. Hada said, the cure is ready. Lou and I were standing outside, in a testing field. Off to the side were some employees, with some equipment. All right, today we'll be figuring out how exactly your quirk works, I said. Now then, how did you do that teleporting thing you did with Ms. Maria? I have no idea, Lou answered honestly. Okay, think back to what you felt. Quirks are often first used on instinct. So go back to that memory. I told him. Lou closed his eyes and thought back. He and Maria were running. They didn't have any idea what was happening. All they knew was that they heard gunshots, and they needed to leave. He didn't know where. Just anywhere other than there. Schwupp. For a split second, he felt his body be entirely wrapped in some kind of warmth before everything went back to normal. Lou opened his eyes and found that he was now a few yards away from where he was before. All right, you did it. I shouted, giving the kid a short applause. Did you mean to teleport there, or was it just kind of random? Lou didn't answer. Instead, he just focused on the spot a few feet in front of him. Schwupp. In another flash of light, Lou teleported a few feet over. So you can control it. I said. Nice. So how'd you do it? I just wanted to go somewhere, and I did. Lou said, before getting an idea. Schwupp. Once again, Lou was gone, but this time, he was nowhere in sight. Huh. I looked around, not seeing Lou anywhere. She looked over to the other scientists. Where did he go? He's not anywhere close to the lab. One of the female scientists said, looking at the devices. But ma'am, his inhibitor rings dash. Schwupp. In a flash, he was back, right next to my. Ow. Lou hissed, as he looked down at his inhibitor rings, which were glowing a bit. These things are burning me. How do I take them off? Where did you go? I asked urgently, as she took a look at his rings. My room, Lou admitted. The heat around his wrist was lessening, as the rings cooled down slightly. Mid-range teleportation, I noted. Ma'am, the rings were straining to deal with the chaos energy exuded by the teleportation. One of the scientists said, they're back at a safe level, but too much use of mid-range teleportation could cause the rings to break. I keep hearing about these rings. What the heck do they do? Lou asked grumpily. Well, you suffer from a rare disorder that causes your chaos energy to leak from your body, like a broken pipe, causing exhaustion and strain on your body. I explained. The inhibitor rings basically magnetize your body a bit, to keep that energy from escaping more than it should. So that's why I'm not as tired, Lou said, smiling a bit. Guess the doctor's experiments finally worked. However, chaos energy is naturally expelled whenever you use your quirk. I continued. But the more the chaos energy you expel at once, the more trouble the rings have regulating. In other words, while the rings do keep you from being exhausted, they put a limit on your overall power. Well, that sucks. Lou scowled, before easing into a sigh. Oh well, better than being stuck in bed all day. Right? Well, now we know that mid-range teleportation is a bit much. I'd recommend not doing it any more than twice in a row. I advised. But let's take a break, and then test out how much short-range teleportation the rings can handle. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX times in a row before having to take another break to make sure his inhibitor rings didn't explode. "Are we done here?" Lou asked as he sat down and drank an energy drink. "We can finish up for today if you want," Mai said with a sympathetic smile. "But before you go, there's something I need to tell you. The way your quirk works is nothing like anything we've seen before. Normally, a quirk works by utilizing impure chaos energy. But your quirk gives off pure chaos energy. And when you use your quirk, some of that energy turns into impure chaos energy. And that means, Lo asked, not having a clue what any of that meant. It means your quirk might be able to do more than just teleporting. Mai took a pause as she tried to figure out how to explain it. Think of pure chaos energy like a block of metal. You can make anything out of it. Its potential is endless. And think of impure chaos energy as a metal tool. It's more useful for doing a specific thing, but it can only do that thing. Most people are like a shovel or a rake. But for you, could potentially be a Swiss Army knife. Or maybe even more than that. Lu felt a few things at hearing that. Excitement, frustration, confusion, and curiosity. So how do I figure out what it can do? I have no idea. My side. As I said, there's never been a quirk like yours before. The closest was a quirk that produced pure chaos energy, but it didn't work like yours. I told you earlier that quirks are often first used by instinct. So you'll probably figure it out by yourself. Still, if there are any new developments with your quirk, then tell me about them. It could help me figure out how it works and what else you can do. All right, Lu agreed. Later. Wait, one more thing. Mai added. Ugh, what now? Lu asked, getting annoyed by all this extra stuff. Next time say all this before you say I can leave. Yeah, my bad. Mai chuckled before getting on to her point. We have to give your quirk a name. A name? Lu asked with a questioning squint, as if asking if that was a joke. All quirks have names. It's a legal thing, so even if you think it's weird, it's necessary. Mai said, if you'd like I could think of a name for you. How about Chaos Control? Lu pawned that. Well, at least it sounds cool. Fine. Is that it? Yup, you're good to go, Mai said. Do you want someone to escort you dash? Snap. Soap. With the snap of his fingers, Lu teleported away. Mai sighed. I have a feeling that kid's gonna do something reckless. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Soap. In a flash, Lu was back at the Midoriya Foundation building, but instead of his room, this time he teleported to the training room. Lu looked down at his inhibitor rings. Since he'd only done a mid-range teleport once, they were only a bit warm. All right, let's see what these superpowers can do, Lu said to himself. He raised his hand up to the metal wall and closed his eyes. He imagined energy welling up in his palm and blasting out at the wall. Pew! Lu felt the warmth come out of his hand and opened his eyes to see the wall in front of him giving off a bit of smoke. Pew! He tried again, and this time he saw a blue energy bullet blast out of his hand and into the wall. A huge smirk crept up on his face, and he knew what he had to do next. Pew! 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 Lu repeated what he'd done before, but this time he put more power into it, causing dozens of small energy shots to explode off his hand all at once, hitting the opposite wall all over. They're like a rain of laser arrows, Lu noted, as suddenly an idea came to him. Chaos arrows. Oh yeah, that was an anime special attack name. Chaos arrows, Lu shouted out, as he unleashed another volley of energy arrows onto the wall. Humph. Lu smirked cockily before another thought occurred to him. Practicing on a wall isn't really satisfying. Wonder if there's a training dummy around. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX this time onto a dummy he'd found. The arrows laid into the dummy and the wall behind it, knocking over the dummy easily. All right, Lu fist pumped the air before he teleported over to the dummy to see how much damage he did to the foam dummy, only to be disappointed. Aside from a few light burn marks, the dummy was pretty much unharmed. Lu frowned. Guess the arrows aren't really that strong. With another idea in mind, Lu propped the dummy back up and teleported back to his place. Lu held up his arm and imagined charging up energy in his hand. Yellow energy appeared in Li's hand, quickly growing bigger and bigger until it was twice the size of his hand. Pew! Lu released the energy, and it slammed into the foam dummy, knocking it down again and taking a chunk out of its shoulder. Huh, nice, Lu celebrated, before immediately taking aim at the fallen dummy. Pew! 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 This time, Lu fired 3 yellow shots in a row, taking a few seconds to charge each one before launching it. Lu got another idea. He brought his hands together, and then he began charging 3 balls of energy at once. Pew! All 3 energy shots launched out at the same time, which smacked into the already damaged fallen dummy. Lu smirked, before charging 7 energy balls at once. Chaos Spear. Pew! The 7 shots launched at the heavily damaged dummy, destroying it even further. Oh yeah, now I'm getting the hang of this, Lu smirked. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX down on a steak in the cafeteria along with everyone else. After my meal. And only if I can live stream it on YouTube. It's been over 200 years and you're still using YouTube? Lu asked, baffled. Yup, Kiba confirmed. Do we have a deal? Sure, Lu said. Just don't get upset when you lose. As if I'm going to lose to a guy who just figured out he had a quirk, Kiba stated confidently. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Lu stood outside in the forest. Today I bring you another glorious fight. This time between myself, the Queen of Eternal Darkness, and a new bee who arrived recently. State your name, challenger. I am Laban Ultimative, here to kick your ass. Lu said confidently, striking a arms-crossed cool kid pose. Wait, I thought you said you were Chinese? Kiba asked. I never said that. I said I came here from China. I never said I was Chinese. Lu explained with a scoff. I'm German. Or at least my parents were. I don't remember being there much. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter. Kiba shrugged. Now let's get on to the fight. I wonder what the new kid can do. Nothing compared to Lady Kiba. Kick his, but Lady Kiba. Kiba and Lu took their positions opposite each other. Lu took a deep breath. Chaos boost. Suddenly a red aura overtook Lu, surging throughout his body. What's that? Kiba asked, looking a bit confused. I thought you could teleport? Humph. I can do a lot of things. Lu said cockily. Chaos boost increases my body's power, making me stronger, faster, and tougher. Oh neat. That I can really punch you. Kiba smirked, before cracking her knuckles. This is gonna be fun. You ready? Ready, Lu said. Since you're new, I'll let you strike first, Kiba said, opening her arms. Underestimating me? You'll regret that. Lu said. Sup. Lu teleported in front of Kiba and delivered a powerful blow to her face. Pow! Kiba's head turned to the side. However, much to Li's surprise, she stood her ground and seemed mostly unfazed. She turned her head back to Lu. Well, credit where credit is due. That actually hurt. Slam. In an instant, Kiba punched Lu in the chest, sending him flying back, slamming through a tree. Lu landed on his back and had to take a second to register the incredible pain he was in. I think I made a mistake. Then he noticed a shadow looming over him and looked up to see Kiba hurtling down toward him. Crash. Lu just managed to teleport away just before Kiba slammed into the ground, creating a small crater from the impact. The black-haired boy appeared in a nearby tree where he could take a moment to just breathe and contemplate his next actions. All right, so she's stronger than I thought. No big deal. I can handle that. What's wrong? Too scared to face me? Kiba taunted. In response, Lu teleported behind her, grabbed the back of her head, and then teleported them miles into the air. Oh, Kiba said, as she realized she'd let her guard down. Lu let go of Kiba and teleported back to the ground, directly under her. He pointed his arm up at Kiba and charged up a red blast. Meanwhile, all Kiba could do was brace for impact. Chaos Lance, Lu called, as he unleashed a big red blast at Kiba. Kiba could faintly see a red light, getting closer and closer, until she realized it was an attack. OSH dash. Kaboom. The attack landed, creating a huge explosion in the air. Slam. And to add to it all, Kiba then slammed hard into the ground, making an even bigger crater than the one she made before. Kiba laid face down in the dirt, her body covered in wounds and blood. Heh. Lu had teleported away before Kiba landed, so he teleported back and stood proudly in front of her. Had enough? And that's when Kiba's hand shot out and grabbed his leg. Not at all. Kiba then jumped up and lifted Lu into the air before slamming him into the ground. Ack! Spit flew out of Li's mouth as the air was knocked out of him. Slam, 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 slam. Kiba started smashing Lu into the ground repeatedly, lifting him up and slamming him down like a human hammer. Soap. Eventually, Lu managed to get over the pain long enough to teleport them back into the air. However, this time, Kiba still had a grip on him, so he couldn't teleport away by himself this time. So Kiba pushed him in front of her as they started hurtling toward the ground. It's now or never, Lu thought. Boom. Suddenly, energy bursts out of Lee's feet like jets from a rocket, and they rocketed forward. What the? Kiba cried as they went flying through the air wildly, as Lu had no idea how to really control his foot rockets. They went up, down, left, right, in loops, in circles. They flew everywhere with no control whatsoever. Slow down, Kiba shouted as she got dizzier and dizzier. I'm gonna puke. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX desk with Maria standing opposite to him. I honestly don't know of any words that could describe what I went through today, Maria said. In a good way or a bad way? Izuku asked, not at all surprised by that answer. I have no idea, but the pay is worth it. Plus, I don't really have any other options. Maria sighed. Yeah, well, on the bright side, you get a day off tomorrow, kind of. Izuku revealed. I'll have you go with Sai into the city to try and find more people to do your job. I don't want you getting overwhelmed, and I'd also like you to see the city for the first time. I see. Thank your generosity, Maria said, doing a short bow. Seriously, without you, I might have died already. No problem, Izuku said with a smile. Also, when I say to find people, I mean so in the most random manner possible. Excuse me? Maria asked, not quite understanding what the hell that meant. Hiring people normally is not really a good option due to all the organizations after my head. So I typically hire people in abnormal ways. Izuku explained. I hired Sori after she broke onto my property, caused a panic, and destroyed a good chunk of my security before she revealed she was here for a job. The fact that doesn't surprise me as much as it should, and that is worrying, Maria said. Get used to the unexpected, Izuku told her, and you'll find your time here to be a lot more pleasant. Crash. Suddenly, Lu and Kiba came crashing through the roof and landed on Izuku's desk, destroying it and bringing them to a halt. Ow wow wow. Both kids groaned in pain as they lay on the pile of broken wood. Maria obviously jumped back in shock, her hand over her mouth as she was currently too shocked to move. Izuku, on the other hand, didn't so much as flinch before pulling out his phone. Hey, Chol, get someone in my office to take Lu and Kiba to the infirmary. Also called the Urarikas and get one of my spare desks out of storage. Thank you. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to support the writer. Like, sub, and leave a comment for more amazing videos. Till next time, keep on blazing.